Hey everybody, welcome back to another Tutorials for Music Teachers, brought to you by ambanddirector.com. We're in the second video of a series where we're learning how to level up our student list with the power of spreadsheet magic and the tools in Google Sheets. Last time, we built our student list from scratch. We added all the necessary data, included a few formulas to help with the processing of it, and this time we're going to learn to automate our student list so that we can more easily process paperwork like health forms, registration data, and payments. There's going to be a lot of neat stuff to cover in this video, so let's get to it. So in this video, we're going to add a couple of new tabs, which are called Sheets, to our student list. We're going to learn all about the powers of named range and data validation, and then we're going to use COUNTIF, which is the one key formula that's going to help us process our paperwork faster. And if we have time at the end, we'll play around with some conditional formatting, because who doesn't love color coding things? Step 1, we're going to rename our original tab Prime. So on our student list we built last time, if you look down at the bottom here, we have Sheet 1 listed. If I double click that, I can rename the title of this sheet. And I like to use it all caps, Prime. And I'll eventually have lots of tabs along the bottom of this. So the easier it can be to find this, the better. We can also add some color coding here. Change the color, add it to red. You can do whatever you want with that. But that's our first step. Step 2 is we want to add 2 more tabs to the bottom, 2 more sheets. We're going to add 1, add 2. And we're going to title these Lists and Health Forms. Okay, and we'll come back to these in a moment. Step 3, we're going to create a few named ranges. Our primary named range we're going to do in this video is going to be the student names. I want to get this list of names put into a formula really easily. So I've clicked in cell D2, and I can know what I'm clicked on by if I go up to this box. This is the name box. That's cell D2. So if you remember from last time, if I wanted to highlight this entire range, I can hold down the Shift key, arrow down, and I can just go one by one. Or the shortcut is Shift, Command, or Control if you're on a PC, arrow down, and that pulls down to the last cell that has data in it, but I want to go all the way down. And we're going to go up to this little name box here. I'm going to click right in that name box and it highlights this range. I am highlighting D2 to D1002. And we're going to rename that. So I'm just going to leave that highlighted and start typing. I'm going to call it Student Names. With named ranges, there's no spaces. And good practice with using formulas is to actually capitalize the first of each word. Hit enter. And this is my first named range. So on our to-do list, we can also see we need to create a header row, prime list, and a prime list without the header. So let's do that. Okay, so the header row is this row right here. So I'm going to highlight on that 1, and that highlights all the way across the entire row, 1 to 1. We're going to click in our name box again, and we're going to title it Header Row. We also want our entire prime list as a name. So click this box right here, and that highlights every column and every row. Click in the name box. We're going to title this one Prime List. And we're going to do the same thing, but without that header row. So I'm going to highlight row 2, Shift, Command, down, and down all the way to the very, very bottom. Click our name box one more time, and this one's going to be Prime List, no header. And we'll add more named ranges in a little bit. But let's click this drop-down arrow and see what we've done so far. So you can see right here, these are the 4 named ranges we've chosen. If I click on them, it'll actually take me to that. You can also see here, this is actually your other tabs, your other sheets are also listed in this. If you want to manage your named ranges, you can click on this button and it will pull up what you see, and all of these are editable, all adjustable. So we've created some named ranges. Now we want to use data validation to actually create drop-down lists from that named range. So on our health form tab, we want to create a drop-down list right here of our student names. I'm going to leave column A blank for now, but in column B, let's create a heading right here. And then in this cell right here, cell B2, we're going to create our first drop-down list from a named range. So to do that, we're going to go to Data. There's your named ranges, by the way, if you want to go find those. But this is what we want. Data validation. All right, so the cell range is cell B2. That's where we are right now. We want to make a list within that cell from a range of items. You could also go here and type those items individually. You could have a series of numbers available, or a text or date, or all kinds of things. But let's do the list from a range. So the range we're going to choose is actually a named one. This is why we did that. So what was the title of our student name list? Right there, student names. So I'm going to click here, student names, exactly the same way that we typed it in. It's going to be a drop-down list in the cell. We want that. Now, if you look right here, you get a drop-down arrow, and within this one cell, you have your list of all your students pulled from that prime list. And as new students get added, they'll be added to this automatically. So we could have this one. Now, if we want to continue this down the page, I'm going to delete that. We're just going to copy, Shift Command down, paste. And we have a whole column of drop-down lists. And so as you get your health forms, you could just go through, click, and start scrolling, looking for it. The only problem here is this is not an alphabetical order, is it? So it might be hard to find a kid's name. Well, you don't have to worry about that. If you're clicked in the cell, you can just start typing the student's name. And anybody on that list that has those letters in their name will pull up. Hit enter. It goes to the next one. Next one. And you can just receive forms. And it doesn't matter actually if you put it in twice, if you have two forms for the same kid. Okay, no big deal. Just type them in as you get them. You don't even have to think about it. So it's like I said, now when you get your health forms, you don't have to alphabetize them. You can just simply click on the first cell with a drop-down arrow, start typing the student's name on the top of your stack, hit enter, and go on to the next one. So how do we get that to actually show up on our prime list and help us figure out who needs to turn one in and who's already done it? Well, this is where we get to the COUNTIF formula. So go to our prime tab. Let's go ahead and hide some of these right here. We don't need those. In this column, we're going to type the word health form. Let's actually align this a little differently. You can wrap the text here. So we can make this smaller. It'll double it up. So in cell M2, we're actually going to add our COUNTIF formula right here. So I'm going to type an equal sign, COUNTIF. And the range we're going to select is the range in the health form tab. And I'm going to select this entire column, all the way down, heading included. So I've got health form, B to B. And this is the way a range is going to look when it's on a separate sheet than the original one. Okay, we got health forms B to B. I'm going to hit comma. And the criteria we're looking at is that student's name. So let's go back to our prime tab. Again, we're still in the same formula. And we're going to look for this right here, cell D2. Close parentheses, enter. Suggested autofill. So what you get here is ones and zeros. Ones if they turned it in, zeros if they didn't. Sometimes there's a 2 right there because Argus Filch is in there twice. This is helpful, but it's a little hard to read. How can we fix that? Let's check our to-do list. So we did this. We created a COUNTIF formula in each row. Okay, that's successful. But we can actually wrap it in an if statement, which is another formula, and that will give us specific answers based on what the COUNTIF formula does. So if we go back to this, we're going to wrap this in another formula. The way we do that is I'm going to click in the formula bar, type the word if, open parentheses, and so we get another formula wrapping this formula on the inside. So the if statement is looking at some sort of a logical expression, which in this case is going to be our COUNTIF formula, comma. If that is true, then we want to produce something. In this case, if it's true, we want a yes to show up. Okay? If it's not true, we want it to be blank. Okay, so that turns into a yes. Let's copy and paste this formula down the page. And you can see when they turned it in, it gets a yes. When they didn't, it's blank. But I'm going to copy, Shift, Command, arrow all the way down, and paste it. Okay. And honestly, if you stopped there, if that's as far as you went with this video series, that would be all you need if you want to manage health forms and other paperwork a lot faster. That's the COUNTIF formula. But let's look at a couple other things. So we wrapped our COUNTIF formula in an if statement that gave us a yes or blank, or yes or no. But sometimes if a formula is referencing a cell that doesn't have anything in it, it can throw an error at us. So one way to avoid that is to wrap another if statement around it that only runs this formula here, only runs it if this is not blank. As an example, let's take a look at our age formula we did last time. If you remember, in the last video, this formula, when carried down, created 122 as the answer, because it's looking at a cell G217 that doesn't have anything in it. And in Google Sheet terms, a date that is 0 is 1900, and so that would mean 122 years since then. Similarly, if I take this formula, the concatenate formula we did last time, and copy it down, you end up with a whole bunch of commas here. And if you were to sort this, those commas are going to be at the top. So we want all these formulas here to run only if the cell they're referencing is not blank. We do that with an if statement. So let's start with our age one here. I'm going to go up to my formula bar, type the word if. So in this case, our if statement needs a logical expression that's going to look and see, is this cell blank? Is G217 blank? If it's not blank, we want to run this formula. So that means we need a comma right here. So whatever we type here, the logical expression, if that is true, it's going to run this formula. Otherwise, we would just want to leave it blank. Okay, so what's our logical expression going to be? Well, we want to look at that cell, G217. So if G217 is not blank. So to do that, we're going to use the greater than, less than signs. Is not, and blank is two quotations. So if G217 is not blank, run the date difference formula. Otherwise, leave it blank. And there we go. So this is now blank here. We can carry that formula down the page. And all the way down here, these are all formulas. So if you just keep on going down, you can see this formula exists. Let's carry that upwards as well, all the way up to the top. And paste. So it doesn't change any of these, but it does leave room that if you have a kid who doesn't have a date of birth, it's not going to put their age as 122. Okay, so let's do the same thing. So let's mark what we've done so far. So we know we've adjusted these. So I like to, if I have a column that has formulas in it, I like to highlight the heading so that I know I don't need to worry about changing that. That's a formula. Okay, what else? What else? These two right here. So let's do our if statement. And again, you can do this on any of these. If, let's put a comma because again, it's the same thing. If one of these cells, let's go with the last name one, so let's go B2. If B2 is not blank, run the formula. Otherwise, if it's false, leave it blank. Open quotations, close quotations, parentheses. There it is. Copy, Shift, Command, arrow down, paste it. Very good. And that will actually eliminate the random commas that were showing up in there. Okay, a couple more. Highlight that one. We edited that one. Same thing here. If we're looking at B2 again, that's the last name, is not blank, comma, run that formula, comma, blank. Okay, copy and paste it down the page. We'll highlight that one as well. All right, any other formulas we have in here? Let's look and see. So we did this one. Oh, remember, we also have part name that was hiding in there, and the health forms. So let's do this one. Another if statement wrap, if. So this is looking at K2. So we're going to go K2 is not blank, otherwise blank. Copy, shift command down, paste. And last but not least, if we're looking at D2, this is the cell we're looking at on this page. If D2 is not blank, comma, run that formula, otherwise leave it blank. And it took away all those yeses there. And let's highlight both of these. We know those are formulas. So right now, blue is non-formulas, yellow are formulas. And the last thing we want to do for helping to manage health forms is we want to make sure if the student name we enter on our health form tab is not on our student list, we can highlight that. So we're going to do one more COUNTIF formula. So right here in cell A2, type equals COUNTIF, and the range here is going to be student names. Remember our named range we made earlier? Comma, B2. Okay, it pulls up a 1. Let's wrap that in an if statement. Let's go if. So in this case, we're going to do the opposite as we did before. We'll leave it blank if it's true. If it's not true, let's put the words not on list. And then close parentheses. So we copied and pasted this formula down the page, but again, we need that wrapping that we did earlier. So we're going to do if cell B2 is not blank, comma, run this formula, otherwise leave it blank. Copy, shift command arrow down, paste. Now why is that important? Why is that a step we should bother with? Let's say you got a health form from a student you haven't entered yet, somebody who moved in. If their last name is not on your list, you will get this little error message, invalid, because it wasn't part of our data validation, right? It wasn't part of this list. But sometimes that's hard to see. So when this pops up on the left, that can remind you, oh, yeah, I need to add John Smith to my student list. Okay. But you've entered their health form, so you don't have to file that away differently. You can just click it as you go through. And then it's one less thing for you to worry about later. Okay, so we've completed step 5. You are ready to rock on your health forms. If you want to learn a little bit more, then let's keep on going. Step 6. On the List tab, we're going to make a list of our band classes and instruments. On my List tab, up in cell B1, I'm going to type a little heading, band classes, tab over a couple, part codes. I want to make a list that I can reference for my classes in the order that I like it and my instruments in the order I like it. You could manually type things in. For my band classes, I'll do class period, hyphen, and then what I call it wind ensemble. Third period is my symphonic band. Okay, and you can manually type these in, and that won't take too much time. But here's a new formula that you might want to learn. It's called the unique formula. So if I already have my band classes listed on my prime list and my part codes, I don't have to retype these in. I can reference this range. So let's go up here and make a named range. I'm going to highlight J. I'm going to go all classes. There we go. And part code, I'm going to label this all parts. Okay, so I created 2 more named ranges, all classes, all parts. Go to my lists. Right here, I'm going to type equals unique. And then the range I'm going to look for here is all classes. And as I start typing, again, it pulls up as an option. Close parentheses. And I know this came up here. It pulled in the heading from the other page, and that's not a big deal. That's easy to fix in a second. I'll do the same thing here. Equals unique. And this was all parts. And enter. Okay, so this is a formula that looks at our prime list. If it's a duplicate, it's only going to do it one time. If I know these classes are not going to change, these instrument parts are not going to change, then I will lock this in place. Right now, this is dynamic. If something changes on my Prime tab, if I go through and delete everybody, all the names of Wind Ensemble, right? If I delete that completely, it's going to remove it from my options. So I don't want that. If something changes here, I still want to see it as an option. So I'm going to highlight my classes, copy it, and then paste it. Now you notice it didn't do anything, did it? It pasted over the formula. So again, if you remember last time, pasting values is helpful. So I'm going to highlight again, go edit, copy, and right here I'm going to paste over that. I don't need band class listed twice. Paste special values only. And now each of these is its own value. There's no formulas there. It's static. So if anything changes on the Prime tab, this remains the same. Let's do the same thing here. Highlight all the way down, copy, and then I'm going to paste values. And if you want to learn the keyboard shortcut, Command-Shift-V, so Command-Shift-V, there it is. So let's make these easier to read. Increase our heading size again. I might even do some alternating colors like we did last time. Let's do yellow and alternating colors. Let's do this lighter blue here. I even like to include as an option, not assigned, and with a code on this one, not assigned. So these classes, we need to make them into named ranges. So we did step 6. We made our list of classes and instruments. Now we're going to create 2 more named ranges, one for each list. So our class list is going to be here, and our part list will be here. And let me show you why this is helpful. If I go to my Prime tab, so I've got my band class and part listed here. But what happens if I have a new student moving in? If I want to enter them at the bottom, so a new student comes in, whatever their number is. Let's say that their name is, again, there's John Smith coming in. Notice our formula is carried over and automatically added them. We see their health form. Good. We could enter in their birthday. Automatically adds their age. But if I want to add their band class in and not just have to start typing it, a drop-down list is helpful here. Same thing for the instrument. So on this column, I want to turn all of these into drop-down lists. So the way we do that, I clicked at the top, Shift Command down like always. I want everything selected. Go to Data, Data Validation, and here we're going to put in a list from a range. And what was our range? Do you remember? Class list. Hit Enter, save. And here's our drop-down list now. Okay, let's do the same thing for our part codes. Shift Command arrow down, all the way down. Data Validation, part list. So now when we look at our new student, John Smith, we're going to put John Smith in concert band, and it turns out they play the clarinet. All right. And there you are. Your new student is entered, and your drop-down lists are going to help with that. Okay, now we are almost done for this video. So we did step 7. We used named ranges. We did step 8. We created our data validation for band classes and instruments. The last thing we want to do here is add a little bit of conditional formatting. So conditional formatting is a really neat way to color code things based on the text you see. So for example, in our health form column, if there's a yes there, maybe we want to have that be highlighted green and have these highlighted red. Maybe we only want to highlight the blanks. Maybe we want to do some other highlighting based on what we see. So the way we do that is we're going to just highlight column M, go up to Format, Conditional Formatting. And it automatically pulls up a couple options here. So if the cell is not empty, it'll turn it green, but let's change that. So let's go here. If text contains the word yes, it'll be green. And let's do if it's empty. And if we click here, here's some formats, red. Hit done, and you have green and red color coding down the page. Another way I like to do it, especially for things like health forms or maybe a permission slip that's really coming up due, is I will actually color code their name based on this column. So check this out. We're going to highlight the entire section where their name is. Go Format, Conditional Formatting, And this is a custom formula. And this is listed in your to-do list here, equals M2:M equals, and then open close quotations. So let's try that. So right here, I'm going to go down to the bottom, custom formula. And I want to say equals M2:M equals that. Okay, now it didn't really pull up anything. Let's see what happens. Let's try this. Let's change the range we're looking at to be 2. There we go. Let's change to just that one column. So if column M is blank, the same cell in column B is going to be color coded. Let's change the color though. I like to just use a little gray so it's not quite so bright. And you can actually carry that across this entire range. Let's go E. And the way we do it here is I'm actually going to add a $sign to the front of each of these. And we'll go over later how that $sign works, how it locks the range it looks at. But for now, that's a great way to do some custom formatting. So as students turn them in, it changes their color coding. So the last custom formula for this video is a little way to automate what we did earlier. We highlighted every column that has formulas in it. As you go further, there's going to be a lot more columns off to the right. So it's a good practice to go ahead and color code if there's a formula below. So we're going to highlight this entire row, header row, format, conditional formatting. Let's add another rule, and it's looking at that top row here. And again, this is another custom formula. Scroll to the bottom. Is formula A2:Z. So we're going to go here, equals, is formula, open parentheses, A2:Z. And we want it to be that same color we did earlier. And done. So you can see every column that has formulas in it is now automatically highlighted. We didn't have to do that ourselves. If I do reset here, okay, that is highlighted the way we want it. And all right, we're good to go. So next time we're going to learn how to use two very helpful lookup functions, VLOOKUP and the combination of index and match. So these are going to be really helpful if we want to expand our automations. Okay, if you want to pull some certain data from Google Form submissions or other info to your prime list, things like registration payments or t-shirt sizes, if you've got an email address list, or even something you're importing from your school district's gradebook software, you need to know how to use VLOOKUP and index and match. And we'll cover that next time. So thanks for staying with me to the end today. If you found this video helpful, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Ring the bell to get notified as soon as the next video drops. And in the meantime, send me some comments. What other uses can you find for the COUNTIF formula? Did you know you could wrap formulas inside other formulas and customize your results? And what about conditional formatting? What color combinations or custom formulas will you use in your spreadsheet? Share your thoughts with the community down below, and don't forget to visit me at ambanddirector.com, where I've got more technology tips and tricks to help us all become better directors. Until next time, keep teaching, keep learning, and keep the music going.